Welcome to Creative Spirits in the Multitude of Counsel. We are so excited that you decided to join us tonight and are prepared to give you some information that's going to help inform, educate, and inspire. We are so blessed to be able to bring this information to you and to share with you some nuggets and some truths of living and guidance of life and using a therapeutic tool to do that. And so we welcome you to today's show and hope you will walk away with all that you need.
It's a vision of our company to not only provide the direct therapeutic support that we do for families, but we also want to do what we can to educate and to help people to understand that therapy is a sacred space. A sacred space where families can find hope and help and healing. And so these series of episodes will cover various topics that plague families, and you'll be able to be introduced to professionals who will be able to give you relevant responses to questions that most people ask related to things such as suicide, depression, relationship issues, chemical dependency. We know that if you tune in to each episode, you'll find the help that you need through this vision entitled The Multitude of Counsel.
Real talk, real therapists, real therapy. Welcome to this edition of In the Multitude of Counsel. Tonight we are excited. We're going to be talking about love and looking at how it develops, how a person meets another person, and how they fall in love together. You know, usually when you think about love, you think about the fairy tale. You think about the prince, the princess, and you think about someone coming to rescue the other, and they fall in love, and in all the good storybooks, the person lives happily ever after. Tonight, we're going to focus on what happens once a person meets, the stages of love, and looking at how it all comes together. I'm honored to have with me tonight two of my great colleagues. I have Shirley Miller and Damon Cobble, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves to you tonight. Welcome.
Thanks for having us here tonight, Cassandra. Once again, my name is Shirley Miller. I am a licensed marriage and family therapy associate and actually do work with families, couples, and adolescents in the Louisville, Kentucky area.
Okay, thank you, Shirley.
And I'm Damon Cobble, and I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist associate. And I also have experience working with individuals, families, couples, and adolescents as well.
I appreciate both of you taking your time today to just come out and be with us on today's show. We're going to talk. I just think it's very interesting when we start talking about the in-love experience and what happens. I know we as therapists, we try to base it and try to look to see what stage a person might be in or where you are as it relates to the love relationship. Damon, tell us a little bit about the stages of love and what that's really all about.
Well, according to Psych Central, there are 5 stages of intimacy, in which the 5th stage is the final stage, the final destination in which couples, it's their ultimate goal, and that's love. But the first 4 stages, they kind of intertwine, and people kind of jump from stage to stage in hopes of reaching the 5th stage of love. The first one is infatuation. Relationship is pretty much based off of physical attraction, hormones, just sex. The second stage is landing, and that's where your vision become more clearer. You know, you coming down from cloud 9 and you start to see the relationship for what it is. The third stage is burying, and burying is not necessarily a bad stage, but that's the stage where you see the relationship for what it is. Life starts to happen during this stage. You start to process in-laws, who's going to do the laundry, who's going to pay the bills, and then you have the 4th stage, and the 4th stage is resurfacing. Now, resurfacing, I think, is pretty much that is the savior of the relationship. That's where you look at your partner or your mate, and you kind of look at them and realize, wow, they are pretty, they are sexy, he is handsome, and that's the stage that really keeps the relationship together.
Okay, and of course we have love. And the person is now in love and ready to be together.
Correct, yeah.
You know what? it's so interesting because I know some of the couples that we see, and I know some of the couples that I've seen in therapy, when it comes to stages, that's not something that we really think about. Or even looking at, I know the other thing as therapists, we take a look at life cycle and look at the relationship as it relates to the cycle of life. And I know we've been talking, Shirley, about the life cycles and how that intertwines and how that plays into the 5 stages.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. I always say that as therapists, our whole field is filled with stages. Everything is stages, like all the way around. It helps us to remember things.
Yeah.
But in terms of that family life cycle, it's such a vital thing. For most individuals, they would recognize this in the traditional sense. You have somebody that kind of launches off as a young person, you know, you graduated from high school or college and you are entering into a world and just kind of forging it out for yourself. And then you have that second phase where, you know, you kind of talk about that coupling stage where you meet Mr. and Mrs. Right, and like life is just so grand and wonderful. And ultimately, traditionally, we would say marriage happens, you know, during that time frame. But from there, we actually have where a couple will have young children that they begin to raise, and you're changing diapers, doing potty training, all that kind of wonderful stuff. And then we get to the place that I know you're very familiar with, where you start to have older, you know, children that you're raising, and they're preparing, you know, to launch out on their own. And then all of a sudden you are in this place where you're looking at retirement, the whole empty nest syndrome, those kind of things start to happen. But, you know, in a non-traditional sense, things that are kind of newer for the family life cycle would be like divorce, or somebody that is a single parent, or, you know, single again and parenting. You know, those are some of the newer things that we've kind of added over the last few years.
You know, I know with us as therapists in stages, we also try to figure out, okay, if you're coming in and you're in this particular love stage and you're in this particular life stage, then we're able to help you to be able to navigate forward and move on in your life. And, you know, we have all types of different couples that come in. We have couples that come in that are traditional, as you said, and then we have those couples that come in that are non-traditional. Some of the non-traditional couples would be looking at a single family, trying to blend our families.
Oh, that's a popular one.
Yeah, that's looking at some of the blended families, and then just looking at single moms or single parents that maybe have recently divorced or separated from the person that they've been in love with and trying to make that work.
Yeah, and one other stage that I've kind of seen happen more and more as we have younger and younger grandparents, you have children returning home, and then you have, you know, that parent, you know, dealing with a child that's returned home, and they're also dealing with an aging parent or an aging grandparent. And so you have this just whole new like conundrum that's happening in society right now.
So the prince actually could come in on any, like, you know, based on what we've talked about thus far, the prince, as we were looking at the fairy tale story, the prince can actually come in at any type of those stages. Like if we're looking at the science of love and look at the stages of how that operates, and then comparing that with the life cycle, that prince can come in at any time, or the princess can show up at any time and fold that in. Let's talk a little bit about that, about some of the couples that you may have seen already, and see how the prince effect kind of comes in and how that works.
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded one. I mean, there's so many different options. I know a popular one right now, especially you have like the single mom who all of a sudden is like, well, I've been doing this on my own, and all of a sudden, you know, you have this Prince Charming, you know, that comes, and especially as you talk about like the infatuation stage and things of that nature, a lot of times there's this misconception that, well, I've been there and I've done that, so, you know, I'm not falling for the same thing that I did last time. And it's like, but to go through it, you got to actually go through it. Infatuation is going to have to happen. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just par for the course. It's part of the process. So, no, that is a super, you know, big one that I see a whole lot, especially nowadays.
So I see, and it makes sense to me because it makes me think about those single moms that come in and they try to make a camp. They try to build a house in the infatuation stage and not have gone through the landing stage and haven't really gotten to know. And I don't know if we've talked about it or not, but looking at how long that infatuation stage or that landing stage, that can operate how long? Anywhere from
Man, that can last the whole entire relationship. Actually, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people actually build their relationships off the infatuation stage, you know, and you know, off that physical, you know, and that's when their landing becomes even more harder. That's a harder landing too once they come down. So, you know, I don't think there's a particular time frame within each stage, but what the research shows is those first 4 stages, you know, they don't go in any particular order. But like you said, you know, Mr. Right may come in during the landing stage, or Mrs. Right may come in during the infatuation stage. So they're interchangeable, but the final destination is love.
Yeah.
And you have to go through all 4 stages in order to get to that final stage of love.
Okay. Well, there you have it. We've talked about the 5 stages. We looked at the life cycle. We're going to talk a little bit more after this break about love and family life. As we were having our conversation and just kind of talking during the break, we were talking a little bit more about that infatuation stage and some of the things that happens during that stage. And you know, one thing that I know just in working with, even with single women, they always come in and say, Miss Gray, you know, the thirst is real. You know, the thirst is real. We are, you know, there are some ladies that will just do anything, you know, to get a guy. And I think just really explaining and expounding a little bit more about that infatuation stage will kind of help us to set some precedents in that area.
What I mentioned before, that the infatuation stage can last over the whole term of the relationship, rather 20 or 30 years, but not with just one person. It can jump, you know, you pretty much jumping from one relationship to another relationship to another relationship to
So have you ever known somebody that works on that infatuation, that just loves to be in love?
And that's what, girl, you said that's, and infatuation, the thirst is
Yeah,
real.
that
Like
is.
really, the thirst
Yeah,
is real in
yeah,
infatuation
yeah.
because, like we said before, it's this thought process that, like, just your hormones are all over the place. You're not thinking straight. The trip to Walmart is like going to Maui. Like everything is just
exaggerated.
wonderful. And that infatuation is so. A lot of people will find themselves in love with being infatuated.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, this is the next, and not this one. This is the next wonderful. And then like we mentioned before, you get into that place of landing. And all of a sudden it's like, I need my high again. Yeah. I need my infatuation high again.
Yeah. So the landing piece just kind of chills you out some.
It's like a cold water to the face.
Yeah. And you know, I know some of the clients that I work with, they do talk about that. They love the in-love experience. But, and we call that the infatuation stage. But a lot of times we'll mislabel that and call that love. And I love what you said, Damon, that the love stage, after you've kind of gone through those stages, you know, that long-lasting type of love, in order to have a long-lasting type of love, that's something that happens over time, and you have to be willing to wait that thing out. And, you know, I think we mentioned earlier, too, that we know some people that try to build a long-lasting relationship, and I've only known you for 2 weeks, and I'm saying, oh, let's move in, oh, it'll be for convenience, or economically, it'll be better for us financially. And all of those are the wrong reasons to build a foundational, long-lasting relationship.
You know, and challenges, one of the things that happens, people try to build a solid relationship during that infatuation stage. And you're trying to find yourself defining what this relationship is. And it's not that you can't start to put some definition around that relationship, but you need to do it in the company of trusted individuals who are not, you know, wired with a bunch of hormones and, you know, just kind of crazy like infatuation can make you. And I tell clients and friends for that fact that a lot of times if you find yourself, especially in an infatuation stage, trying to read like in between the lines, then I'm like, you may want to just not read that book, because you can't really get a good gist of something unless you can read it straightforward and know exactly where somebody's coming from. And infatuation, it's just kind of hard to really get that full grasp of where somebody's coming from.
Because your hormones are totally in the way.
Oh, exactly.
And also with that, during that stage, you know, as I mentioned, the logic and the hormones, they don't coincide together. You know, the hormones,
Yeah.
the hormones is taking over.
Yeah.
And you know, you just looking to get that pleasure. You're just looking to get that pleasure. And like you said, the misconception is a lot of couples, a lot of individuals define that stage as the love, the final destination, as the love stage.
Yeah.
And that's not totally true.
And I think that's why we see so many breakups.
Yeah.
You know, and they're so devastating because in my heart I'm thinking this is long term, but I haven't given myself enough time to allow this thing to move from infatuation and at least to get to a good landing stage. I can't even land, we can't even land to a place of dealing with real issues. And I know you've dealt with couples that have been, I know I have, and I know you guys have too, that have been married maybe a year and they're already having difficulty and they don't know why. And it's because they met, got married, are connected, even if they're not married or living together, and they're having trouble because they haven't landed. And they didn't take the time to get to know the person, the other person. Their in-laws, how they relate to their moms, or how they relate to the family of origin. You know, they haven't taken the time for that. How we deal with money, looking at our credit, the way we operate, how we're going to discipline kids, especially if it's a blended family. Those are all landing issues. And being able to understand that, you know, that you've now built something permanent on something temporary. Infatuation is temporary because it's all hormonal. And now that the hormones are kind of plateauing out, I kind of know you a little bit. The other thing is, I'm going to see you for who you are. Like, I start to see little things about you, like, was you trying to boss me, or did you try to tell me what to do, or
did you drink the last of my?
Yeah. The toilet paper rolls on the upside or it's on the downside. You squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom and not in the middle. You know, and so
don't let the toilet seat down.
Yes, absolutely. So those little things that you ignored, you know, those now are kind of glaring at you in that landing stage. And if you don't have the skills to negotiate and compromise, that is so important. Being able to have that skill to talk that thing through without feeling like I'm going to hurt your feelings or crush your heart, or, you know, but really being able to stand, and that's where the healthy part of a relationship comes in.
Well, you know what, it's so funny. We know, for a fact, all of us know that a big part of having healthy relationships is that vulnerability piece. And unfortunately, a lot of times nowadays, people think vulnerability is sex. And it's like that, I mean, not that that's easy to do, but that's kind of easy to do. But getting to the actual core of a person where it's not just, can I accept you even for the times that you're not just excited and happy about things, but can I deal with you in the times that you're grieving or you've experienced a loss, that, you know, things have not gone exactly the way that you wanted them to go. That's where true vulnerability comes in. I mean, because animals in nature, they get it on all the time. You know, they do. But, I mean, vulnerability is way more than just sex. It just is.
I think that's where your life cycle comes in, too. Because life is going to hit you. You're moving towards a destination, too, in life. But then there are these things that happen on top of your normal that can cause you difficulty. And if you don't have the ability to communicate about that, that sets you up for a catastrophe.
And that's very important. You mentioned a very important term. You said skills. You know, and a lot of people enter into relationships without having that foundation. They don't understand those stages, you know, what it takes to build a healthy relationship. So what are they doing? They're modeling what they see. Other couples do. So and that's where we come in. We can kind of help them develop that skill set to see the relationship for what it is and help them transition to each stage in hopes of getting to the final stage.
I have to totally agree with you. You know, I tell my daughters, and my daughter and I, we was watching an episode of Mary Jane, and Mary Jane is a single mother, a single person, and she's trying to figure out, you know, where she fits as it relates to being in a relationship. And her father had a real strong conversation, and she said, I'm just trying to find a relationship like yours and Mom's, that you guys have been together for over 30, almost 35 years, and you guys have been together all this time. And he told her, he said, I know, he said, the time period that we were together, that's what was up. That was what was accepted. That was the norm. Today, the norms are so different. You know, the roles are different. Men no longer traditionally are the ones that are the main breadwinners and are, you know, so the traditions have changed to the point to where the relationship, the nature of the relationship are going to change and should change and should redefine themselves And it's so important that we don't mimic what others portray, but that we find some authenticity in our own relationship. That my relationship doesn't have to look like yours. That my relationship can be unique. My relationship it's our relationship. And I think that's important.
And it goes back to what Shirley had said as far as, breaking cycles. In order to get to that final stage, like Cheryl said, you have to make yourself vulnerable. And that's through the landing stage, the resurfacing stage, the growth stage. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable to hurt, to pain, in order to build that bond and that closeness with your partner.
Intimacy is, can you see into me? Will I allow you? Will I open my heart up? And I know that when we start talking about that growth and that resurfacing, it's all about me opening myself up and allowing you to really see. That infatuation stage, of course, is hormonal, but it's also a time of hiding. And so when you hit that second stage, it's about, okay, the real you is showing up. And then can I be strong enough to allow you to see the real me without being filled with shame or guilt about my experience, about my upbringing, about where I've come from, and being able to allow you to see into me and having that intimate moment. I think that's important.
Yeah, I say it all the time, to be fully human is to experience joy and pain. It's like you can't be fully human if you can't deal with the whole gambit of it all.
Guys, this has been a great dialogue today, and I am so appreciative of just your contribution today and some of the things that we've talked about. And I hope our aim in having this dialogue today is that you walk away with some really good, strong tips, understanding the stages of love and what that's all about, the 5 different stages. You can't build a total relationship in infatuation. Wait that thing out and allow the different stages to come. That in life, in the life stages, as Shirley talked about, there's going to be things that happens to you in life, but you don't allow that to stop or interrupt the stage of love that you're in or take away from your relationships. We want you to be strong. We want you to be healthy. We want you to have great, strong relationships.